Number 1. The first rule of power: stop fighting fools. Listen carefully. The first mistake intelligent people make is believing everyone thinks like they do. They assume logic will win arguments, that truth will defeat ignorance, that reason will silence stupidity. But the world does not work that way, not even close. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Power does not belong to the most reasonable man in the room. It belongs to the one who understands human nature, especially its stupidity. Foolish people are loud, emotional, impulsive. They thrive on chaos, and the moment you try to correct them, argue with them, or prove them wrong, you step directly into their battlefield. That is where they win, because fools do not fight with intelligence, they fight with noise, and noise always drowns out reason. This is the first brutal truth you must accept if you want to become untouchable. A foolish person cannot be defeated through argument. Trying to out-explain stupidity is like trying to teach a wolf the rules of chess. It doesn't care about the rules, it just wants to bite. Intelligent people eventually realize something powerful. The goal is not to defeat fools. The goal is to control the situation around them. Machiavellian minds do not waste energy proving they are right. They observe, they calculate, they choose when to speak, and when silence becomes a weapon sharper than any argument. When a foolish person attacks you with ignorance, they are expecting resistance. They want emotion. They want your frustration, because the moment you react emotionally, you become equal to them. But a calm, controlled mind destroys them in a different way. Imagine throwing a stone into deep water. The surface barely moves. That is the presence you must build. When fools provoke you, you do not explode. You do not defend yourself desperately. You simply watch, cold, patient, untouchable, because nothing terrifies a foolish person more than someone they cannot emotionally manipulate. Understand this. Fools reveal themselves quickly. They interrupt, they insult, they react without thinking. They expose their weakness openly. Intelligent people never rush to expose their own power. They let the fool speak longer until the fool destroys himself. This is not kindness. This is strategy. The Machiavellian mind understands something most people never learn. Every fool is a tool. Their arrogance blinds them. Their impatience exposes them. Their emotions betray them. And if you remain silent long enough, they will hand you the advantage without realizing it. The moment you stop trying to win against foolish people, you start controlling them. That is the first transformation, and it changes everything. Number 2, never wrestle with a fool. There is a rule the powerful learn early, a rule most people discover only after years of frustration. Never wrestle with a fool. Not because you cannot win, but because the fight itself destroys your advantage. A fool drags every conversation into mud. He replaces logic with emotion, truth with volume, and strategy with chaos. And if you allow yourself to engage on that level, you lose something far more valuable than the argument. You lose your position. This is why the mind shaped by the lessons of Niccolò Machiavelli operates differently. It does not chase validation. It does not crave the satisfaction of proving someone wrong. Instead, it asks one cold question before every confrontation: is this battle worth my power? Because power, real power, is not loud. It is selective. Fools believe every insult must be answered, every challenge must be confronted, every disagreement must be fought immediately. Intelligent people know better. They understand that every reaction reveals something about you. When you react too quickly, you show your emotional triggers. When you argue endlessly, you show your need for approval. And when you try desperately to convince a fool of the truth, you show that their opinion still matters to you. That is weakness. The Machiavellian mind never gives that gift away. Instead, it practices a dangerous form of discipline: controlled indifference. Imagine standing in front of a barking dog behind a fence. The dog wants a reaction. It barks louder when you shout back. But the moment you ignore it, the barking slowly fades into useless noise. Fools operate the same way. Their arrogance feeds on attention. Their confidence grows when they see you reacting. But when they face someone who does not respond emotionally, something strange happens. Their power disappears. They begin to look unstable. desperate, irrational. And in that moment, the balance shifts completely. Intelligent people understand that fools are often their own worst enemies. Give them enough time, and they will expose their ignorance in front of everyone. Interrupt them, and you save them from their own mistakes. Silence becomes a strategy. Patience becomes a weapon. While the fool burns energy trying to dominate the conversation, the intelligent mind is studying everything: tone, behavior, insecurity, patterns. This is where true advantage forms. Because once you understand a fool, controlling them becomes effortless. You do not fight them directly. You guide their impulses. You allow them to reveal their weaknesses. You let them underestimate you. And the moment a foolish person underestimates you, you have already won the most important battle. Not the battle of word, but the battle of position. The fool believes he is attacking you. In reality, he is walking exactly where you want him to go. Number 3, silence is the weapon of the intelligent. Most people fear silence. They rush to fill it with explanations, defenses, and emotional reactions. But the intelligent man understands something far more dangerous. Silence is power. When a foolish person confronts you, insults you, or tries to provoke you, they are not simply speaking, they are testing you. They want to see how easily your emotions can be controlled. They want to see if they can pull you into their chaos. And the moment you respond with anger or desperation, they learn something about you. They learn your weakness. This is why the strategic mind described by Niccolò Machiavelli rarely reacts immediately. The powerful do not rush to defend themselves. They pause, they observe, they allow the other person to speak longer than they should. And this is where fools make their greatest mistake. Because the longer a foolish person talks, the more they reveal. They reveal their insecurity, their jealousy, their need for attention, their desperation to dominate the moment. Silence forces them to expose everything. Think about it. When someone insults you and you react instantly, the confrontation becomes a battle. But when you simply look at them, calm, expressionless, unmoved, something shifts in the air. The fool suddenly feels uncomfortable because the reaction they expected never arrives. Their mind begins racing. Why is he not responding? Did I go too far? Does he know something I don't? This psychological pressure is far more powerful than shouting back. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty destroys confidence. Intelligent people understand this deeply. They know that words are cheap, but presence is terrifying. A calm man who refuses to react emotionally becomes impossible to manipulate. His silence becomes a mirror that reflects the foolish person's behavior back at them, and often that reflection is embarrassing. While the fool grows louder, more aggressive, more desperate, the intelligent man remains still, controlled, unshaken. This contrast exposes the truth of the situation to everyone watching. The fool begins to look exactly like what he is: emotional, irrational, weak. Meanwhile, the silent man appears composed, disciplined, and powerful. This is not accidental, it is strategy. Silence allows you to gather information while the other person burns their energy. It allows you to choose the perfect moment to speak, if speaking is even necessary. And often it isn't, because the greatest insult to a foolish person is not an attack, it is indifference. When they realize their words cannot reach you, their anger becomes useless. Their confidence collapses, and eventually they expose themselves completely. That is when the intelligent man finally speaks. Not with emotion, not with desperation, but with precision. A single calm sentence can destroy what the fool spent 10 minutes building. That is the true power of silence. Number 4, never reveal your full mind. One of the greatest mistakes intelligent people make when dealing with fools is showing how intelligent they really are. They explain too much. They correct every false statement. They expose their knowledge in an attempt to bring clarity. But clarity is wasted on the foolish. And worse than that, it gives them information they can use against you. The strategic mind, shaped by the philosophy of Niccolò Machiavelli, follows a different rule. Never reveal your full mind. The moment people understand exactly how you think, They begin adjusting their behavior to manipulate you. They learn your logic, your patterns, your moral boundaries. And once they understand your rules, they start bending them. Fools may lack intelligence, but they are not always harmless. Many are cunning in a primitive way. They sense when someone is smarter than them, and it threatens them. Their first instinct is not respect, it is resistance. They interrupt you, they mock you, they twist your words, because your intelligence exposes their insecurity. This is why the intelligent man does not display his full depth in every conversation. He speaks simply, sometimes even more simply than necessary. He allows fools to believe they understand him completely. This creates a powerful illusion. When people think they have figured you out, they stop being cautious around you. They speak more freely. They expose their intentions, their jealousy, their fears, their weaknesses. And every piece of information they reveal becomes another advantage for you. Remember this: mystery creates authority. A man who explains everything appears defensive. A man who speaks little appears confident. Fools often mistake silence and simplicity for weakness. They believe they are dealing with someone less capable than themselves, and that miscalculation becomes your greatest protection. Because the moment someone underestimates you, they lower their guard. They become careless. Meanwhile, you remain observant, strategic, patient. You are not trying to impress them with intelligence. You are studying them like a chess player studies an opponent who does not even realize the game has started. The Machiavellian mind understands that knowledge is a weapon, but like any weapon, it should not be displayed carelessly. The moment you show your full strength, people begin looking for ways to neutralize it. But when your true capability remains hidden, you move freely, untouched, unchallenged. Fools may talk louder. They may boast more. They may appear confident in the moment. But confidence built on ignorance always collapses eventually. And when that collapse happens, the quiet observer, the one who revealed almost nothing, is the only one left standing with real power. Number 5, let the fool expose himself. One of the most powerful strategies when dealing with foolish people is also the simplest. Let them talk. Most people interrupt fools too quickly. They try to correct them, challenge them, shut them down before they embarrass themselves further. But this is a mistake, because every time you interrupt a fool, you save them from revealing their true nature. The disciplined mind shaped by the ideas of Niccolò Machiavelli understands a darker truth about human behavior. People reveal their weaknesses when they feel comfortable speaking. Give a fool enough time, and he will proudly display his ignorance without realizing it. His arrogance will push him to exaggerate. His impatience will make him careless. His emotions will lead him to say things that destroy his own credibility. And while he believes he is dominating the conversation, he is actually dismantling his own position, piece by piece. Intelligent people do not rush this process. They sit back, they listen. They allow the fool to continue speaking long after most people would have intervened, because every additional sentence exposes another crack in the mask. This patience creates a psychological trap. The fool believes he is impressing the room. He believes his words are powerful, but to those who are observing carefully, something else becomes obvious. He is losing control of his own image. The more he talks, the less intelligent he appears. The more emotional he becomes, the weaker his arguments sound. This is the moment where true strategy appears. The intelligent man does not attack immediately. He waits. He allows the fool to reach the peak of his confidence. And then, with perfect timing, he speaks only a few calm words. Not a long explanation, not an emotional speech, just a single observation that exposes the flaw in everything the fool just said. Because when someone has spent 10 minutes building a tower of nonsense, a single precise sentence can make the entire structure collapse. The room sees it instantly. The fool feels it immediately, and suddenly the balance of power shifts without any dramatic confrontation. This is why restraint is such a dangerous quality. Most people cannot control their urge to respond quickly. They want immediate victory, immediate satisfaction. But the Machiavellian mind thinks in a different time frame. It understands that the most effective strike often comes after patience. When a fool exposes himself publicly, you do not need to destroy him. He has already done the work for you. All you need to do is reveal what everyone has just witnessed. And when that moment arrives, your words carry weight because you did not waste them earlier. Silence gave them power. Timing gave them precision. And the fool never even realized he was building the weapon that would defeat him. Number 6, control your emotions, control the game. The easiest way to defeat an intelligent person is to control their emotions. And foolish people, even without realizing it, constantly try to do exactly that. They provoke, they insult, they exaggerate, they twist your words. Not because they are strategic masterminds, but because emotional chaos is the only battlefield where they feel comfortable. If you step into that chaos, you lose your greatest advantage, your mind. This is why the disciplined philosophy, often associated with Niccolò Machiavelli, demands something most people never master: absolute emotional control. When a fool attacks you verbally, they are throwing a hook into the water, hoping you will bite. The moment you react with anger, frustration, or the desperate need to prove them wrong, the hook sinks deep. Now they control the rhythm of the interaction. Now you are reacting instead of directing. But a man who has trained his mind refuses to take that bait. He understands that emotions are not weaknesses. Losing control of them is. Anger clouds judgment. Frustration speeds up your reactions. And rushed reactions expose mistakes. Intelligent people move slower. They allow the emotion to rise inside them, but they never let it take control of their behavior. Imagine a calm predator watching prey run in panic. The prey is faster, louder, more frantic, but panic destroys its awareness. Meanwhile, the predator moves slowly, calculating every step. The outcome becomes inevitable. This is how emotional discipline works in conversation and conflict. While the fool grows louder, you grow quieter. While they rush to defend their pride, you detach from the need to win immediately. Your calm presence begins to change the psychological atmosphere. The fool starts pushing harder, becoming more aggressive, more irrational, because your composure frustrates them. And every second they lose control, their credibility fades. People watching this situation begin to notice something subtle but powerful. One person is emotional, the other is composed. One is reactive, the other is deliberate. Authority naturally shifts toward the one who appears in control. This is the hidden advantage of emotional discipline. You are not just protecting your own clarity of thought, you are shaping how others perceive the entire interaction. In the end, the fool often walks away believing they won because they shouted the loudest. But intelligent people understand something deeper. The real victory is maintaining control of yourself while the other person loses control of themselves. Because a man who cannot be provoked cannot be manipulated, and a man who cannot be manipulated becomes extremely difficult to defeat. Number 7, distance is a form of power. One of the most misunderstood forms of strength is distance. Most people believe power comes from confronting every problem, responding to every insult, and correcting every foolish person they encounter. But the intelligent mind understands a far colder truth. Not everyone deserves access to you. In fact, one of the clearest signs of maturity is recognizing when someone's presence lowers the quality of your thinking. This is where the strategic philosophy often linked to Niccolò Machiavelli becomes brutally realistic. Power is not only about influence, it is also about control over your environment. And foolish people are one of the most dangerous environmental influences a person can have. They drain attention, they create unnecessary conflict, they pull intelligent conversations down into emotional arguments. Every minute spent dealing with their chaos is a minute stolen from your own growth. The disciplined mind refuses to tolerate this for long. Instead of trying to reform foolish people, it quietly creates distance. This distance does not need to be dramatic. No loud declarations, no emotional exits, just gradual withdrawal. Fewer conversations, shorter responses, less availability. Over time, access becomes limited, and limited access creates something powerful: value. Think about it carefully. The more available you are, the less people respect your presence. When you respond instantly to every comment, every insult, every message, you teach others that your time has no boundaries. But when you become selective, something changes. People begin to notice that your attention is not easily obtained, and suddenly your words carry more weight. Fools hate this kind of distance. They are used to constant reactions, constant engagement. When someone stops feeding their need for attention, they feel powerless. They may attempt to provoke you even more aggressively at first, trying to pull you back into their world of noise. But if you remain consistent, their influence fades. Eventually, they turn their attention toward easier targets, people who still react emotionally. Meanwhile, your mental space becomes clearer, your focus sharpens, your conversations become more meaningful because they are no longer polluted by unnecessary conflict. This is not arrogance, it is discipline. Intelligent people understand that protecting their peace is not selfish, it is strategic. A calm mind sees opportunities that a distracted mind misses completely. By limiting exposure to foolish behavior, you strengthen your ability to think, plan, and act with precision. And that precision is where true advantage lives. Because the man who controls his environment eventually controls the outcome of most situations within it. Number 8, use the fool's nature against him. Every person has a pattern, a predictable way they react to pressure, conflict, and attention. Intelligent people study these patterns carefully, because once you understand someone's nature, you no longer need to fight them directly. You simply guide their behavior. This is where the colder side of strategy appears, the principle often associated with the thinking of Niccolò Machiavelli. People are easiest to control when they believe they are acting freely. And foolish people are the most predictable of all. Their weaknesses are not hidden. They crave attention. They react emotionally. They rush to prove themselves. These traits make them extremely easy to influence if you remain patient. Most people attempt to overpower fools with intelligence, but this rarely works. The fool becomes defensive, aggressive, resistant. Instead, the strategic mind does something more subtle. It lets the fool believe he is winning small victories. It allows him to talk more, brag more, push his confidence higher, because the higher his confidence climbs, the less cautious he becomes. And caution is the only thing that protects him from his own mistakes. Think of it like guiding a reckless driver down a road full of sharp turns. The more confident he becomes, the faster he drives. And eventually, the road itself exposes his lack of skill. This is the hidden advantage of understanding foolish behavior. You do not need to create traps. Their own arrogance builds them automatically. All you have to do is step aside and watch the pattern unfold. The Machiavellian mind recognizes something most people ignore. Every weakness contains leverage. Pride can be turned into overconfidence. Anger can be turned into impulsive decisions. Insecurity can be turned into desperate attempts to prove worth. When you understand these patterns, you stop reacting emotionally and start observing strategically. The fool becomes predictable. His next move becomes obvious before he even makes it. And when someone becomes predictable, controlling the outcome becomes much easier. The intelligent man does not expose this control openly. He remains calm, almost indifferent, because the moment people realize they are being guided, they resist. But when they believe every action is their own choice, they walk exactly where their nature leads them. And foolish nature almost always leads towards self-destruction. This is why the disciplined observer rarely needs to defeat fools directly. He simply positions himself wisely and allows the fool's own behavior to do the work. In the end, the fool believes the result was accidental, but the intelligent mind knows the truth. Human nature, once understood, becomes one of the most powerful forces you can quietly direct. Number 9, the power of strategic indifference. There is a level of control that most people never reach. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. In fact, it often looks like complete disinterest. But beneath that calm surface lies one of the most powerful psychological strategies a person can master: strategic indifference. Foolish people depend on reactions the way fire depends on oxygen. Their insults, provocations, and arguments are designed to create emotional movement. The moment you react, even if you react intelligently, you feed the flame. But the disciplined mind, influenced by the realism of Niccolò Machiavelli, understands something colder. Not every attack deserves a response. In fact, some attacks become stronger the moment you acknowledge them. Think about how foolish people behave when they feel ignored. At first, they become louder, more dramatic. They try harder to provoke you. But when those attempts fail, something begins to happen inside them. Doubt, because indifference sends a powerful signal. You are not important enough to disturb my mind. This is one of the most humiliating experiences for someone driven by ego. They want proof that they can affect you. They want to see anger in your eyes, frustration in your voice, urgency in your response. When none of that appears, they are forced to face a possibility that terrifies them. They are irrelevant. Strategic indifference is not passive weakness, it is deliberate control. You are choosing where your energy goes and, more importantly, where it does not go. Intelligent people understand that attention is a limited resource. Every argument you enter, every insult you respond to, every foolish conversation you entertain, all of it drains that resource. And once your attention becomes scattered, your clarity disappears. But the man who practices indifference protects his focus like a fortress. He decides what deserves his mind. Everything else becomes background noise. Over time, this creates a powerful reputation. People begin to notice that you are not easily drawn into drama, that your reactions are rare, that when you do speak, it is intentional. And because your words are rare, they begin to carry weight. Fools, on the other hand, destroy their own credibility through constant noise. The more they speak, the less anyone truly listens. The more they provoke, the less seriously they are taken. Meanwhile, the strategically indifferent man remains composed, untouched by unnecessary battles. This is what makes him difficult to control. Because the easiest way to manipulate someone is through emotion, anger, pride, insecurity. But when a man refuses to give those emotions away cheaply, manipulation becomes almost impossible. And when manipulation fails, most foolish opponents lose their only advantage. At that point, the game quietly ends before it ever becomes a real fight. Number 10, become untouchable. Now you understand the game. Silence, control, distance, psychological patience. But the final stage is something deeper than strategy. It is becoming untouchable in mindset, not just in behavior. Most people think power is about defeating enemies. That is a beginner's belief. The highest level of strength is when you no longer need to fight at all. You simply exist in a state where foolish people cannot disturb your peace, influence your decisions, or control your emotions. The real master of human psychology does not waste life trying to correct stupidity. He builds a life so disciplined, so focused, and so purposeful that foolish behavior becomes irrelevant to his journey. At this level, insults stop feeling personal. They become predictable background noise from people who are emotionally trapped in their own limitations. You stop seeing fools as enemies. You start seeing them as evidence of how low emotional intelligence can fall when people abandon self-control. You move like a man who has already won internally, because external victories mean nothing if your mind can still be shaken by random opinions. Become difficult to provoke, not because you are cold to others, but because you are deeply invested in your own mission. Your focus becomes stronger than your ego. Your goals become stronger than your pride, and your discipline becomes stronger than your emotions. People will try to pull you into arguments. They will try to test your patience. They will try to measure your reaction like scientists testing a chemical experiment. But you will remain steady, controlled, calm under pressure. The strongest psychological armor is not aggression. It is emotional independence. When you stop needing approval from foolish minds, they lose power over you instantly. They cannot manipulate someone who does not care about their judgment. They cannot control someone who has already accepted himself. So walk quietly, think deeply, speak only when necessary. Let your results speak louder than your words. Because in the end, real power is not how loudly you dominate others. It is how completely you dominate yourself. If this message sharpened your mind, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss this kind of psychological insight again.